Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.
Photography for me, I think is more like it was first like souvenir, because I remember when I traveled around the world, it was in 2002. I still had my dad's film camera, and it was like, you had to really be careful on which photo you were taking, studying the lights, and trying to get the best shot, and you never know anything before you actually develop the film and then see everything. So for me, first it was souvenirs that you could look at again, and then as soon as there was the digital thing and everything with pixels and no more photo on paper, then it became more a tool to learn more about photography, because you can test so many different settings, and then a tool for work because you can show to everyone what's happening in your area and what you're struggling with or your successes.
Delphine, Robbe, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. We're just going to learn about you and talk about the photographs and the kind of work you're doing. Because personally, if people listen to the podcast, we're at episode 48, but generally about 25% or one quarter of the people are from the world of conservation. Because I was really involved in marine conservation, I'm really tied to that. And so the oceans, the seas, water protection, all of these things are very, very important to me. We got connected, but we've never met.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a real pleasure. It's a real honor. And before we dive into the photograph, where are you right now? What surrounds you?
I'm at home, and I'm downstairs, and so I can see my garden around, which is a like community land with some of my mates, but they're not here because of COVID. So I'm looking at trees and flowers, and I've got 42 coconut trees on the land. And because I just fed the horses, they're not in front of me, but otherwise they will pass by. So I'm in Gili Trawangan, which is in Indonesia, north west of Lombok. Beautiful small island, only 7 kilometers around, and very quiet at the moment. So we're enjoying, but we're also struggling with no income.
Wow, wow, wow. By the miracle of online calls and all that stuff, we're able to talk. And I said to you, would you like to join me on the podcast? You sent me photographs, and they're very powerful. And so it's a podcast. So it's kind of a funny way to introduce visual photographs, but the photographs are really just anchors or departure points. And who knows where we end up. The first image that I'll describe for people is it's it's really powerful. It's really surprising. When I opened the email and I saw it, I was looking at it, and when your brain sees something that it's not used to. Okay, obviously you, Delphine, are used to it.
Yeah.
You're in the photograph, but for me, it's like, okay, I'm looking at something that I've never seen before, and it's beautiful, and it's haunting, and it's stunning, and it's called aqua yoga. And so I can describe for the people. Okay, so you know how for people who, if you've ever looked from in a pool and you've looked up at the surface of the water, it'll reflect the light coming from the bottom. But in this case, almost not quite, not full, but half of the image is the reflection of the surface of the water from underwater, and the image is upside down. And in it, you're in your bathing suit, you're not wearing a snorkel, so there are just a few tiny bubbles coming out of your nose, maybe. You wouldn't be upside down underwater, even though in the photograph, it's like you're in a funny position. Your body is in this really incredible position or pose, 95% of the image is this deep, beautiful blue from the ocean or sea. Why don't you tell us a story about this photograph? Because it's mind blowing. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Well, the photographer is really good. That comes from my friend. He's like my brother. So his name is Fouad Kadashi, and he's a photographer. He still does that. He's a diver and photographer. So we used to live together on Gili Trawangan, and he always had ideas about which photos we were going to do, and he's also passionate with woman body. So we did quite lots of shoot for ads in the water for like jewelry and clothes. So he always plays with the reflection of the water. But then he started to challenge himself and me at the same time about, oh, we're going to do yoga, but you're going to have posture, but you're going to have to be just below the water. It's like I'm carrying the water. So then when he puts the photo upside down, so we did, I don't know how many hours of footage in the pool and then in the sea, but in the pool you get the light is totally different because it reflects on the sides of the pool and the bottom of the pool. So it was just to practice the position, the pose that I will need to get, and how much air I will need to get out of my lungs to be just below the surface, like I'm touching it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we practice in the sea. And for him, it was just to build like a book to be able to say, like, I can do that kind of pictures and to try to get contracts for other things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's his work, but it was quite a lot of fun to practice underwater. And yeah, it was like hours of doing it, and then I loved the result. Obviously, it was like and
Yeah.
him too. Then he tried to do it with some models, so people with like maybe better body than me, but it didn't work because either they were scared of the water or they wouldn't find out how much they will actually need to empty their lungs off to be able to just be below the water, not comfortable going down with only half full lungs, or too fat and floating, so never go down.
First of all, it's so striking because for him, he really created this unbelievably powerful image. It's just eye candy, and it's just beautiful to look at. And yeah, it could be something that you would have in your house. I think the second guest that I had on Shooting It Raw, or the third guest I had on Shooting It Raw, she made life-size paintings of girls diving in the water, and you should go check those out because the images are nudes, and here it's a semi-nude, and but there's just this freedom and this beauty and this light and contour. It's so powerful, and just on an aesthetic level. And I'm sure you've used it as a tool, or maybe not. I don't know, but you could use this as a tool to raise people's awareness and passion around the oceans. Did I lose you? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still there. Just cut a bit, but it's okay. Um, Yeah, so I think when we were talking about what kind of photos we were going to do with underwater yoga or aqua yoga, it was really to try to give the message of like how, all yoga, it's always about grounding and feel connected with the earth and blah blah. And my therapist will always tell me, yeah, but you can't ground because you're always swimming and your legs are always up. You always sit in crossed legs and never touching the floor and things like this. And she's like, yeah, but because you're always swimming. Anyway, the picture it was really to show that yoga can be done everywhere, and I think one of the best medium is actually the water because your whole body is connected. You have like support. It's not only from your feet or your head or your hands with the gravity when you're on land, But in the water, it's so dense that you just melt with the medium, you know, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, and then the water is supporting you, and then everything feels lighter. You know, your body feels lighter in the water. And I think my thoughts and my stress are the same. Like every time I go check the reef or just snorkeling with my son or things like this, it's just ah. And it's not because it's silent, because underwater is so noisy, but it's just because it just felt straight away like relax,
Mm-hmm.
and my whole body is supported. Like I can really feel the connection to the earth when I'm in the water,
Mm-hmm.
because the earth is there supporting me. And yeah, so I think that's what we wanted to give as a message, as a
Mm-hmm.
go in the water. There's no fear to have, and then trying to get into protecting it.
Sure. This image really works as as basically as beautiful photography. So it doesn't necessarily need to have a message. We don't have to try to force to squeeze one into there. It's just, I mean, if you're listening to this and you have a moment and you want to see something really beautiful, check out the website and check it out. It's just a stunning image. How about we go to the next photo?
Sure.
So the next image, I guess that's you on a horse. You're both in perfect silhouette. In the background, you're standing on a beach where the water has pulled, so it's low tide. The sun is setting, so it's actually the sun has set. So it's that those deep reds and the deep blues and the black and the horizon. You can just see. Now I know this is in Lombok, or you're looking onto Bali, so you could see in the southern tip of the island there's Mount Agung, which is this incredible volcano, and you and the horse are kind of in the left side of the image in perfect silhouette, looking to your left, I guess, or just looking across the plane of the image. Again, it's really just a beautiful, perfect island scene. So tell me about you and horses and sunsets.
Horses, sunset. Horses is my first passion. So I was always asking my mom when I was young, I want to do pony riding, and she was like, no, you can't, because your back is not strong enough. You've got scoliosis, and it's gonna kill it if you
Oh
go
wow!
for horse riding. So she said, you've got to do. The doctor said that I had to do ballet first to be able to go horse riding after, to muscle my back. I
Wow!
did about a year or two, and that was when I was 4 or 5, I think. 5, yeah. 1 or 2 years of ballet, but most of the time I was not going to the class because I hated it. Because I was a tomboy, so there's no way I'm going in tutu to dance every week in the ballet thing. I just wanted to pretend I was going, so my mom would put me on the horse riding lesson at some point.
I'm sure you're fooling people. I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but then I got caught, and so my mom realized that I didn't want to do ballet. That was an old dream and not mine. And so we went back to the doctor and asked the doctor what actually I can do, so as a sport, so I can combine it with horse riding. And the doctor said swimming. And so that's how I got the connection with the water and the horses. So then I could start to pony ride, and I went into a farm that was there quite close, and I started to love it. And every time I finish school early, I'll take my bicycle and go all the way there and helped cleaning the stables. So I don't know, I will clean 6 or 8 stables so I can go riding for free. Then it was my job during my study. When I was 16, I got some how do you say, instructor level, so I could start teaching the kids and helping the pony club to get
Hmm.
a little salary, so that will help me to pay for my study. And then my boss was super nice, so I would ride almost every day and train some young horses
Where was this?
in the suburb of Paris.
Wow! Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like England and horse riding, but France is quite good with horse riding as well.
I'm sure. So, how did you get from France to where you are now with horses?
After my study, I traveled around the world for about almost 2 years. And then through the travel on my own, I met many people. One lady, Tali, who I met in Burma, and then we scuba dived together in Cambodia and Thailand. And she sent me a message saying, "Oh, you should come and join me in Gili Trawangan. You're gonna love it. It's scuba diving, and there's no motorbikes and no cars. It's everything with horses." And I was like, "Right, I'm coming."
Wow.
Yeah. So I still thank her for saying that, and that's when that's how I arrived in Gili Trawangan, so in 2004. And there were horses here, but most of them in bad state and all pulling some carts. And no, at that time there was no fresh water on the island, so they were drinking brackish water. So they had colic, they had kidney
Oh.
failure, things like this. So that was one of the second job in conservation. We started with reef restoration and straight away still working with animals. And we started the horse clinic and with education and things like this.
hmm
And before that, I already found a job as a helper in some stables. So there was a stud horse riding adventure, and with
hmm
an English couple owning it. And anyway, so it went well. And then my friend Fahmi, Indonesian, bought stud and move it to his property on Gili, so I could teach him how to ride every time he was here. And he used to live in Jakarta and used to come around maybe once a month, sometimes twice a month. And so he bought some of the horses from stud, but mostly bought the name. And then he was really rich, and he bought some thoroughbred from Australia that were in Jakarta, so brought them all the way here. And the one I am on the picture is Boy Tomohon, beautiful black horse. And so I was usually teaching farming in the morning, and anyways, it would come here only for a few days. But after a day of scuba diving and teaching diving, I would go sunset for a nice canter on the beach, and that's always been like
hmm
the release thing. And then guess who's the photographer of that beautiful one? Same guy, Fred, because we lived together and we had this little house on the beach, and he was just like, I want to do the picture of the horse as well at sunset. So just to promote the island and all the activities here. Coming back from a ride, and then we did a couple of picture, and he's got a gift. He catches the good moment.
First of all, it shows that he's a good photographer. He's definitely got the beautiful light. He's got the two, you and the horse. So, is this a racing thoroughbred horse? You can't see detail because it's all in silhouette.
Oh, not racing, just cooling.
Okay, got it. But such a beautiful moment, really.
Yeah.
So, what would you say was in the years that you've been there? Is there a moment when you connect with a horse that really stands out where you think this moment is perfect? I mean, look, in the photograph, it looks perfect. It just looks absolutely perfect. But we're just an observer to the moment, right? So we don't know. But can you describe or can you think of or remember a time when present moment of being on a horse on the beach was itself just sublime?
For me, just sitting on the horse is amazing, and then it's the environment that makes it even more beautiful. When you're sitting on a horse, you're sitting on his heart, basically. His heart is just below you, and you're trying to get your gravity center aligned, so that's the way you can stay on the horse.
Mm.
And at the moment with COVID and no tourists on the island, I feel that present moment every day, because I don't go for a
hmm
sunset, other things to do, but I go for morning rides, and the beach is empty, the ocean is all for us, and so riding my horse and cantering on the beach, and yeah, letting her go, because I always like challenging pony and horse. So the one I have now is like a ex racing horse. I've been beaten, and most of the time I just have to hold her. So it's quite hard on my arms and my
Hmm.
abs and things like this. It's not really like I can enjoy the present moment. But if I let her go and let leave the reins loose, then she goes super fast, and then you connect totally to her pace and her rhythm, and your whole body is just following that until the end of the beach, when you have to find the break.
Wow.
So yeah, thing is, the once you're a good rider and you can enjoy that, like cantering on the beach, I think is one of the dream for most of the people who are learning how to ride or who are riders. And it's even nicer in a climate like here, because the water is always warm and the light is beautiful. And I ride bareback. I don't put saddles, and I put jut pose, but just to protect my legs. But otherwise, I would ride with a short, I think, or I don't know, a bikini.
Wow.
Some people ride with bikinis, but not me. It's just anyway. Is the freedom. I think the freedom. You feel like you could go anywhere in the world on your horse.
I think a lot of people who are listening right now, especially now with COVID and everything, the first image is like you in the ocean doing underwater yoga with this beautiful light. It's just amazing. And then the second picture is of you on the beach, sitting on this horse, talking about just the freedom of going
Yeah, it's a dream
fast.
life.
And I really hope that for some people, it doesn't trigger them to kind of go like, this is like so like it's so envious because
Yeah,
some people are stuck in quarantine or whatever. So hopefully it's beautiful. It's just beautiful to hear and to look at and to appreciate. It's amazing.
thank you.
Is the connection stable? Like, can we go on to the next image?
Yeah.
It's one where you're diving, so it's diving. It's underwater. So the image it's unfiltered, so it's kind of bluish. And I count one, two, three,
Hmm.
four divers. So there's a photographer, so that's five divers. And you're probably at a depth of, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 meters, maybe 6 meters. The water is crystal clear. Unfortunately, the coral is very muted,
Hmm.
broken, shattered. The sort of the bottom half of the image is just the seabed with brown and green and not bright, colorful coral. It's all kind of muted colors. And then the top half of the image is the divers doing some kind of work. You're wearing gloves and you're kind of going through the water. So what is this image about?
So this is in the shallow water, just in front of Trawangan Dive, the dive shop where I usually teach. And we were actually with maybe, I think there were 15 divers with us, because we were welcoming a group from the United World College Singapore, who were coming to learn how to dive, and then they do conservation work with me. And so they were learning about coral propagation and how to make a coral nursery. My gloves and my net bag are always with me, and I also dive with tweezers, so I can take the Drapella snails out,
Mm.
and they are really bad predators for corals. They eat the polyps. Not as bad as the crown of thorn, but they're much smaller, so they go deep in the corals. So you have to take tweezers if you want to take them out of the table, branching and things like this. So anyway, those all those students from UWC were learning how to propagate coral and how to make a nursery. And if you want to make a nursery, a coral nursery, according to the Ocean Quest method, you need rubble. So you need broken corals and dead corals. So because you're going to build a nursery from quite big and small broken coral, so calcium carbonate skeleton, and or aragonite. And anyway, you're going to stack them into a nursery. The first you start at maybe 5 meters long and 2 meter wide, so you can work from the side rather than passing over the nursery.
Hmm.
And then you call them the live rocks. Those actually dead corals from a long time ago, and you stack them all together with, so it's maybe above 25 30 centimeters from the
Hmm.
ground. That's the height of the nursery, just by putting lots of rubble all together. And then you're going to save some of those live rocks that you're going to bring to the shallow water in the sand, so it's available for you from the beach. Then with the kids, we were going to find the corals we wanted to propagate. So we go for diving, look at the turtles, but also to find some broken live coral. Any live coral can break from, I don't know, from fins, people
Hmm.
kicking everywhere, or anchors, or just by storm or current. Sometimes a branch will come off, and mostly when you have a seabed which is full of rubble, nothing is stable. You know, corals, they don't have roots, so they're just going to start growing onto a dead piece of coral because it's their best substrate, it's calcium carbonate. But as soon as they got resistance against the
Hmm.
water, then they might get flipped over, being upside down or rolling down the slope. So we were trying to look for one, and I think in my mesh bag there was a Ziploc bag with some of those, one or two of those corals. Then we bring them quickly back on the beach, and then we have some big buckets there, so we put the coral into it without being out of the water, so it's not stress. And then we have to work quite fast in cutting that piece of coal in very small pieces, like 1 centimeter, and then gluing it onto one of those live rocks.
What kind of glue are you using? Is it like real glue, like contact?
Yeah, you use like super glue, the acrylic glue, like that. What you use it. That's the same when if you don't want to have stitches and you get a cut, you use the same glue.
Oh, okay.
So it's okay for your body. It's okay for the corals. But then the prof, Anwar Abdullah, or the guy who did all this method, he created his magic potion, and he calls it the coral catalyst. So we cut the coral a tiny bit, maybe 1 centimeter long, that we're gonna put onto one of the live rocks. We put the glue, then the piece of coral, and then we use a little pipette or syringe to put some coral catalyst on top. And the coral catalyst is basically freezing the glue. So the glue is straight away becomes white and glue the coral well. And then in the coral catalyst, there's also all the magic potion ingredients that nobody is supposed to know. But what it does, it helps the coral. It's like a natural antiseptic, and it will not only freeze the glue, but help the coral to survive those first stages of being cut and putting into a new place. And so once there's that, straight away you can put the live rocks with the baby coral back into the water, back into the sand area where you put all of them there. And then once all the live rocks are ready with their baby coral, you dive again to bring all those live rocks on top of the nursery.
Oh, wow.
And then you're going to monitor your nursery and well stacked, so they're not gonna be turned over or anything like this, or to see how many of those coming into the nursery, because they start feeling, oh, it looks like a nice place and lots of baby coral growing. And so you see the army of parrotfish and surgeonfish and damsel coming to clean all the algae. So you make sure they are here, or you call them if you need to get them to clean the algae. And the wrasse as well are coming. Anyway, so then in a few weeks it will create an ecosystem, and then you keep on monitoring the nursery. And then another group comes, another group of kids come, and you can teach them to propagate from the nursery. So this time we're not looking for a loose coral, but we're going to cut one bit of a coral, a baby corals, and been growing. When it's got the stage of like being a teenager, maybe hand size for a branching coral, so it doesn't reach sexual age, and that's when the coral lose a lot of energy. So that coral is going to stay a teenager and focusing its energy in growing and being happy. And so that's the one you're going to cut, and then you can propagate either on another nursery to create another reef or in the natural reef.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. You've given us a crash, or you've given me a crash course in propagating.
I gave all the course
Yeah,
away.
it's quite amazing.
I think I heard you now.
Now, is it a little bit better?
Yeah, now it's a bit
Okay,
better.
so over the years that you've been doing this, has there been improvement? Have things only been getting worse? Like, what is the status today?
Since I'm here, I'm going to speak locally because I'm quite pessimistic in globally in the state of coral reef. But here we can see the result of our action, and it's pretty positive because we've got 150 biorock reefs, we've got 5 coral nurseries to propagate all over around, and we're teaching. There's like an agreement between all the dive shops in Gili, not only a price agreement, but how they should teach their students how to dive and control the buoyancy. And then I get more and more groups of kids and people and interns and volunteers coming to learn about the different technologies we use to restore coral, but also how to help on every dive with reef gardening. That's how we help the coral as well. And the same way the biorock method, the coral propagation will work is like a broken bit of coral, and I can always be saved as long as it's still partially alive if you find a nice place to put it. So yeah, and when we started the biorocks in 2004, 2005 actually, end of 2004, quite straight away after I arrived on the island, not being bored of teaching diving, but wanted to do more and use my salary to say thank you to the ocean or the reefs. One of the first grants we got was actually for the sharks and manta rays for the market. It was from Project Aware, and we've got a horrible market in Lombok called Tanjung Luar, and that's where most of the shark and rays catch come from the east of Indonesia all the way to Australia.
Oh, wow.
So we had a 2 year, yeah, we had a grant for 2 years and studying how many sharks, which species, male or female size, and then the mobula ray, devil rays, and manta rays. And then we did a press conference in Jakarta, and after that we got threatened, so we stopped. Anyway, we had our numbers and our study, so we didn't need to do more of the research. Now sometimes we bring interns or volunteers to the market, but I don't always go because I see some of those faces who don't really like me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and it's all like Chinese mafia. It's not even the Indonesian people, the fishermen, or the people from that village. They don't get anything.
Right.
There's no waste management. There's no better school, no better clinic. There's just nothing. Everything goes into another market, but nothing stays locally. As the head of the village will say there, the only thing that stays is the smell. So yeah, and it's a horrible smell.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
As we go through the images, we're going to go deeper into the conservation side of your life and who you are. And I really hope that will awaken in some people this simultaneous, on the one hand, you live in this incredible paradise, but it's life. So after a while, you can't help but look around and see what is actually happening. And if you have even an ethical side to your personality, you're going to react. So in this image, as we're going into these images, they become less objects of desire. They become more factual reportage. So in this last image, there's a photo of a woman. It might be you, who's very tanned, probably has blonde hair, maybe not. And so the horizon at the top of the top part of the image is curved. So it's an ultra wide, almost fisheye photo, and you're in a boat, a dive boat. You can just see a little bit of the diving gear. So you've got like the BCD and you've got the regulators and stuff. If that's you in the photograph, you're looking off the side of the boat. So why do you think this is an important one to share with shooting it raw?
That's like the post dive meditation. So there was another photo where there was before with my prof Anwar, where I'm ready with my hood on and everything, and that was the pre-dive meditation, and the ones you're looking at is the post-dive meditation, and just visualizing everything that we've done, and then starting to make a list about what we will need to do next time we go there, because we set up in a nursery which is not accessible from the shore. So it's more like, okay, I need to plan to go and see all the dive shops in Gili. So every time they're going to that place, I'll try to join their boat so I can check on the nursery. And then, so that's usual dive boat and equipment and scenery for us when we come back from a dive. Did I lose you completely?
Well, things happen.
Just
We'll see
about.
if we'll get her back.
Right.
Because if not, it's just me talking to myself. Ah, wait a second. Somebody's coming
Right, I'm
back.
reconnected. Sorry.
Are you back? Oh, good. You're alive.
Yeah, on the hotspot. On a hotspot now. What's the point of paying an expensive Wi-Fi when it's just?
So in the last image, you're sitting on the boat on the deck. It's moving, so it's going. You can't really see too much. You're just seeing basically 2/3 of the image is the inside of a dive boat, and
Yeah.
the first image connects you to the water. The second image connects you to the beach and horses. The third image is about the conservation of coral. And so, what's this fourth image?
That's coming back from a dive with my BCD there. It's the post-dive meditation. I'll send you another one when there was the pre-dive meditation when I have my wetsuit and my hood on. And this one is the post-dive meditation about what I'm gonna do. And the front of the picture, you can actually see the buckets and a bottle of coral catalyst
Mm-hmm.
and all our tools, because we were propagating from the boat. We usually propagate the coral and make nursery to places that are just off the beach from the shore. So you can go just snorkeling, or when you're scuba diving, you can go whenever you want. You don't need to find a boat. But this time we wanted to create a nursery in a place where not many divers or snorkelers are going. So the pre-dive meditation was all about planning how to make the nursery with only one tank and propagate the coral and everything with the current and things like this going up and down the boat without running out of air. And the post-dive meditation, which is that picture, is trying to think about the planning of how many times I'm going to be able to monitor this new nursery, and which is by sending messages or going around all the dive shops that we have in Trawangan. So they call me when they're going to that dive site, so I can join their boat and dive on the new nursery and monitor it mostly for the first 2 weeks when it needs to be like probably checked daily. So yeah, you've got some of our gear, my BCD with my net bag. I don't think you can see the tweezer. Oh yeah, you can see the tweezer from the
Mm-hmm.
predators, and then the buckets and things like this, and the gloves, and the glue as well. There's also the glue in the bucket and the
Mm-hmm.
bottle of coral catalyst, the magic potion which looks a bit white, like the Pocari Sweat. You need to keep it in the fridge, so we have to write do not
Oh
drink,
wow.
because some people think, oh, it's Pocari Sweat, the same color, but then they get the shit for at least a day. It's not, it's not something that you should
Yeah,
drink.
for the people who've never been to Asia, when we say "oh, Pocari Sweat," I mean, if you've been to Asia, you know what it is. It's
Ah,
basically a sports drink, and it's always a little weird for people to look at a sports drink that's called something sweat.
yeah,
It's just a sports drink. It's like Gatorade or whatever.
sugar and salt.
Do you keep a dedicated log of all your dives? Yeah.
No.
Too many dives.
Too many. I think I have about 6 or 8 thousand dives. I stopped
Wow.
in 2000. I think I stopped logging my dive in 2006, and I was with 2,000 dives already, and I
Wow.
was there's no point keeping all those paper.
Sure.
So the way I keep on not logging my dives, they get onto my dive computer, but I keep on sending pictures of videos of the nurseries or all our biorock
Yeah.
reefs, so we can see the growth, and also when you ask me if the reef is getting better, yes, it's getting better in our area and with all our efforts and everything that we're doing. But globally, it's getting worse. And here, when globally, like global warming because of climate change, then we get El Nino, and then we get mass coral
Right.
bleaching, and that's when we need to monitor really well, almost every day, the temperature and the discolor, like the color
Hmm.
loss of the corals. So we use photos as well for that.
Yeah.
Also to measure the growth of coral, because there's lots of software when you can just work with pictures. You put your picture there, it's the same angle as the last time, and then the software tells you how big the corals are growing. So yeah, everything is the way I log my dive is more the way I log the progress of the different reefs I care about, and with photos. So yeah.
So your family, you still have lots of family in France?
I have my mom. My dad died when I was young. My brother lives in Mexico, and then on my mom's side and my dad's side, I still have aunts and
Yeah.
cousins. And my dad's dad is still alive. So my granddad is 101
Wow.
years old. And last year I could go for his hundreds, but not this year.
Right.
Oh.
It's such a different world, a different life. Some people go into quarantine and they're, in Hong Kong, for example, they get you're forced quarantine where it's mandated by the Hong Kong government where they have to pay in a small hotel room of about 200 or 300 square feet, maybe a window they can look outside. So their experience of this global pandemic is this intense being stuck inside, and then
Yeah.
shift that several thousand kilometers to where you are. And I'm really concerned, or I'm really interested and fascinated in terms with how people are coping with mental health issues, and also just how they're, because the feelings are going up and down. So now we're coming up to about a year, at least in Hong Kong, we're coming up to about a year to bring our conversation to a close.
Yeah.
You were really inspired by horses, and then by the ocean, by the sea, by water, and then it's matured into living on this incredible island, this beautiful place. So somebody who's listening to this, would you have some kind of words of guidance in terms of how to feel, how to find the energy to just keep working, because you've been doing this for years and you just keep going out there, and so you have your son. So how are you teaching him to find that energy to kind of keep pushing forward?
Yeah, for sure I teach him to keep on moving forward. Although I brought him too early on beach cleanup, so he doesn't want to do it anymore. So I think is one motto, just like never give up, and I don't know how many obstacles you can encounter in your life or in your job, how many frustration, the stress, how many times you feel like you're on the edge of burning out. It happens to me. It's not all lovely pink and blue, is it's quite hard. But Indonesian people as just incredible people. They always smile.
Hmm.
So then, and it's real. You want to cry because you're stressed or something didn't happen the way you wanted and things like this, and then you look at them and they just smile at you even if you're in tears, and then it's learning from them and actually just putting a smile on your face. It's what's going to change your mind.
Hmm.
And first maybe you're going to force yourself with that smile, but then later it's going to come naturally. It's like, it's okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to find a solution. you know Jump over the obstacle, take another path, or yes, or find a totally different solution, which will be a totally different path for what you're trying to
Hmm.
reach. And yeah, and that with that smile, they're also teaching you to not take things
Right.
personally. Everyone now is built up with fear and paranoia, and they have to stay inside. They can't touch each other. It's a horrible time, and you feel that that's how politicians or whoever is trying to manipulate the world can manipulate the world that way, because they put the fears into everyone's brain first. For me, it's like trying to cancel that fear, and I think the best way is to smile, and don't be shy to talk to friends or therapists if your friends can't help you, because there's so much help around the world that is accessible, and now we know even more through the internet. The web is amazing source of
Hmm.
information or contact with other people. So yeah, and then think about when you can travel again and you can come here, because here we didn't have the fear, we didn't get paranoid, we got isolated in our own
Hmm.
island. So everyone here, we were not allowed to leave the island, but nobody was allowed to come to the island. But we were not confined in our homes. We were confined into the, I think it's 300 or 400 hectares of island with the oceans around. So I think it's one of the best place to be
Hmm.
confined. It's actually here.
Sure.
So yeah, I think the main thing is don't give up and keep smiling.
We are, on the one hand, it's kind of frustrating because the signal comes in and out and it's not the cleanest thing and all that stuff. But on the other hand, it's a miracle, it's a marvel of everything that you're on this island so far away, but also just it's amazing that we can talk and that we've met. And so thank you so much for your time. Keep doing this amazing work, like log in another 5,000 dives. I love it. How can people find, is there a website that they can go to get more information?
Oh yeah. So the Gili Eco Trust, that's the association I work for. So Gili, like Gili Island, so Gili, and Eco, ECO, and Trust.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.